spell.
Well, I tell you what, and I wouldn't normally start off a satsang using naughty swear words, but if you can hear me now, it's a fucking miracle. And I'll tell you why. Something's gone wrong, and it might be Mercury in retrograde, probably is. I don't know if I can blame it on that. Firstly, I couldn't get on the Wi-Fi connection where I was. So I got in the car and scrambled to get somewhere, and I'm not really very far out of London, and you should be able to get a good signal. I'm trying to get somewhere where the signal on the phone in the car doesn't keep cutting out, and for some weird reason, wherever I go, I can't get more than 3 bars, and it keeps going down to 0, which means that I might be cutting out at any moment, but I am driving at quite fast speed in the Batmobile as we speak, looking for a spot where there will be some stability of signal. This is insane, and I doubt that there's a guru in the universe that has ever attempted such a thing. So I would like to tell you I now have 4 and 3.5 bars, so we're doing well. And I'm coming up to, no, I've gone down to 3 again. There's something really weird going on today. I know it. I don't know if it's Mercury in retrograde or there's something odd with the satellites. I don't really know. But I will be with you, so you just hang in there as I'm hanging in with you. Because this is really fascinating. I've been thinking about happiness a lot. This you do, especially if you're going to be running a satsang on it. Don't cut out. Stay there, stay there. Here we go. I'm getting to what looks like more of a signal, but I can't guarantee it. How we seek it in externals constantly. Like if I get the thing I'm wanting to get, if I get the job, the deal, the relationship, the house, the status, the respect, ooh, we're losing bars. The bars that I want to be able to speak to you, everything will be okay. Yeah, so I'm just coming up to a major junction here over the M40 motorway, where I'm now going to cut into the services on the M40, which is west of London, near Oxford. Honestly, I've been around this area a lot, and always there are 4 bars. Tonight there's only 3. Moving to 2, moving to 1. This is going to start properly in a minute. Right now I'm driving at about 70 miles an hour, which isn't ideal for relaxation, but we're going to get there, we're going to get there. This searching for the happiness pill outside of ourselves does work momentarily. You get it. You get moments of what feels like happiness. But we are programmed to run interference on that. Why we're programmed to run interference on that, I don't know. I have theories. One, for example, is that we are ashamed of ourselves for believing that we're God. You know, that this construct that we've created, this personality, thinks it's autonomous. We feel guilty for assuming such an arrogant thing, and so we punish ourselves for it. That might be one. It could just be as simple as what Freud would call the death urge. I'm into the service station now, by the way, and about to park, and I've got what looks like a solid 4 bars. This is victory, by the way, and victory is an example of an external factor which does seem to promise happiness, but in fact promises merely a momentary cessation of suffering. And yeah, so thank goodness for that. I hope you can hear this, because if you can't, I'm just going to be talking to myself for the next hour or so, which isn't actually that unusual for me, except I don't usually do it out loud. And I do talk to myself about exactly this sort of issue quite constantly, really. So we're looking for happiness externally, but it only ever fulfills us kind of fleetingly. So Epicurus, the ancient Greek philosopher, reckoned that happiness was when there was an absence of pain. My friend Jürgen Kolb, who I wrote the Tao of Sexual Massage with, who is a nihilistic Berlin-based therapist, reckoned the same, that happiness happens when the pain stops briefly. So then I ask myself, well, what actually is this pain? I mean, we're not talking surely about mere physical pain, are we? And everybody's not in abject physical pain all the time, enough for it to be a problem to destroy happiness. So we're talking about an emotional or existential psycho-emotional pain. And psycho-emotional pain, unless we're being victimized willfully by somebody who for some reason has power over us and over the way we're feeling and thinking, who we're obliged to obey because they have the threat of force to use over us or whatever, all this suffering, this pain, is self-induced. And this is what I meant by running interference on ourselves. Then I asked myself, what is happiness? What actually is happiness? No one's really good at defining happiness because it is a fairly amorphous, nebulous concept. But happy, the word happy, I can't remember if it's Old English or Old German, it originally implied chance. What befalls you by chance as you wend your merry way along the great thoroughfare. And happy meant originally the ability or the facility for managing the cards you were dealt from hand to hand optimally. In other words, being able to ride with what life brings you peacefully, so that you feel a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment and contentment merely for being alive, for whatever life deals you in the moment. And you're not falling prey to the tendency, I think we all have, of comparing yourself to other people. And you'll notice that when you are comparing yourself to other people, you don't generally tend to compare yourself in any significant way with people who appear to be doing worse than you. You generally only compare yourself to people who seem to be doing better than you. And that's how advertising and marketing essentially works, is by making you believe that there are people doing better than you. And they don't even have to then give you the message to aspire to that. You'll just want to naturally. That's how it works. You'll have that envy, acquisitiveness thing will spark off in you, and you will want what they got, or a version of it. And so you do, you get somebody wearing a Rolex watch, David Beckham or whatever, advertising a Rolex watch. It's only a watch. I mean, it's a piece of equipment that you wear on your wrist. But if David Beckham, the footballer, in case you didn't know, who we assume to be living the life of the Lord, says that watch is okay, you will aspire to, well, you know the story, you know how it works. This comparing, this what I would call competition anxiety, and generally feeling you're not doing well enough compared to others, is one of the biggest causes of suffering, one of the ways we induce suffering in ourselves unnecessarily the most. Along with that, or associated with that, is a general low self-esteem, which comes from all sorts of things, but is innate to our culture, that somehow or other we're not good enough, unless we're the king or the queen. And even the king or the queen probably doesn't feel good enough because they're not God, which is who they're there to represent originally. So when you have a vertical hierarchical pyramidal structure, as such as has been perpetrated and perpetuated by the Normans onwards, certainly in Britain, and then that model has been adopted pretty much throughout the Western world. It doesn't matter how high up the chain you go, you will never feel that you are the full deal. You will never feel that you are fully deserving of all the bounty of life because you are not number one. And That it can also come from potty training, people changing your diapers in a way that doesn't make you feel good about your bodily functions, being told off for wetting your pants in school, home, generally being told off as a child when you don't really know any better, you don't really know what you're doing, so being told off seems like quite a shock. Being told you're a very naughty boy or girl, being told that no, you don't deserve it, you can't have this treat or that treat, or generally actually being spoilt the other way as well and being given everything but somehow given nothing, leaves you with a sense of somehow not being enough. Well, whatever it comes from, it seems to be innate to the human condition to somehow assume that you are not fully deserving of all the bounty in the universe. Whether it's just a trick we play on ourselves, I don't really know, but it seems to be universal and ubiquitous, this low self-esteem. Hence why L'Oreal's advertising buzz line works so well, because you're worth it. Why would that have any resonance if people didn't feel like they were worth it? And there's a sense that also, because if you're looking for if you're hooked on believing that happiness comes from achieving things, gaining things, acquiring things, you'll have also noticed that everything comes and everything goes. Everything reaches its maturity, declines, and falls apart. Your feeling on a high will turn to feeling on a low. Feeling elated can turn to depression. Things going well turn to things going badly. People that you love, they die, they leave you. One day you'll die, and then life will leave you. And you can't really get too attached, and it hurts. And so you kind of keep a measure of suffering going to stop yourself getting too involved with the happiness or the joy of things when they're going well. And that's fine. I mean, it's all well and good. This mucky mechanism that we've all sort of learned to deploy to sort of engineer our way through the process of being a human. But the happiness that the soul craves, this ability to roll with whatever destiny brings you and maintain a state of constant delight just because you're alive, to be bearing witness to this implausible spectacle of the universal goodness knows multiverse unfolding before your very eyes, and the way it plays out in human affairs. Just to be able to feel that delight constantly just for being here, that's the happiness that the Taoists were on about when they somehow developed this incredible system, and on which we're focusing here at this satsang tonight. If you've never been to a satsang anywhere in the world by anyone before, I'd say that this one is highly atypical. Not just because I started it driving along like I was in a car chase, although for that isn't me being clever, that we have to give props to the geniuses who invented all this wireless technology and computerized cars and all the rest of it, and the roads that we drive on. But because generally it would start off in a lot more orderly way anyway. It comes from Sanskrit, the word, and it means sitting together in truth, and would be conducted, or is conducted in India, or are conducted in India by gurus, at whose feet one sits, and they hold forth for a while on whatever subject they're interested in that day. Then there'll either be a chanting episode where everybody chanted mantras or toned oms or whatever, or there'll be complete silence, sitting together in silence, or there'll be a guided meditation of some sort by the guru, most often silence. And then there'd be a question and answer session, and eventually everyone will file past the guru and be given Shakti pat. They'd be given like a sweet or a whatever and patted on their head, and their Shakti, their divine energy, would be stimulated by the guru, which is a beautiful thing. If you're at an ashram and there's a good guru around to go visit, it's fun. I've done it a lot myself. The difference here, as you can tell, is first of all, I'm not a guru, because I don't take on the karma of my disciples. I don't have people following me other than on Twitter and Facebook. My message is to follow your own Tao. I mean, what I am is a brother, and I'm guiding from the front line of my explorations into how Taoism works in the modern world for an unruly person such as myself, and hence it would definitely work for everyone I could be in contact with, because I don't know many people as unruly as me, but it works for me. And the brand of Taoism that I work with is the original pure form, the non-religious form, without the hocus pocus and the funny clothes and hats and stuff. And I call it Way with Taoism, because it really is the way of liberation for spiritual hedonists, and therefore implies that kind of people who love to taste the beautiful fruits of life, but yet want to be enlightened doing it. In other words, you can enjoy all the external goodies of life, the pleasure of the senses, but you don't get lost in them, and you certainly don't expect to receive your fulfillment from any of it, not the external stuff. You know that the only way you're going to get that fulfillment is from being at one with the Tao. And I will explain that momentarily, what that actually means pragmatically. And the way would also implies being a ward of the way, being a custodian of the way, and also being on the way, like onwards on the way. And the way is actually a way of translating Tao. Tao translates as the way. It means the way of all things, the way of life, the way it all unfolds, the way of the magic, and so on. So that sets us up here. Magicking your happiness right up isn't actually about doing something to yourself that isn't already happening. It's about stopping doing stuff to yourself that you don't need to be doing, which is otherwise preventing your natural state of being purely delighted to be here. Now, there is this phenomenon called yin and yang, which is a dance between the forces of contraction and expansion. It's primeval, primordial. It's there right from the beginning of time. It's whenever there are two opposite poles in existence, you'll have one will automatically assume the contractive tendency, while the other will automatically assume the expansive tendency. The contractive will automatically assume the role of the structure builder, while the other will automatically assume the role of force, pure movement. The yin is the structure, the contraction. The yang refers to the force, the movement, the expansion. Now, if yang was left unchecked and had no structure in which to sit, it would just be force and therefore just burn out. It wouldn't be recognizable. It wouldn't have any significance. If yin was allowed to just be structure without any movement or force in it, it would just congeal and be solid blob. And it's the dance between these two. The yang relies on the yin for there to be structure. In other words, if the movement of the car is the yang, it needs the road, it needs the structure and the infrastructure of the road system upon which to move around, to experience its movement. If there were just roads and road structure but no cars to drive on or no vehicles to drive on them, it'd just be pointless waste of tarmac and traffic lights and white lines and road signs and all the rest of it. So the two of them rely on each other and have no choice anyway, because that's always occurring. And this means that there will inevitably be phases where things are going your way and phases where they're not. Phases where life feels great and phases where it feels shit. And it's inevitable, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. But whereas if you see things in a linear model, it looks like when things are going against you, they're always going to be like that, and you're never going to get out of it. When you're aware of the cyclical nature of phenomena, you know that when things get bad, they'll reach the zenith of badness, and at that point, when you can't take anymore, they'll start flipping around to the good again. And when the good reaches its zenith, and it's usually just when you're giving yourself props for being so brilliant at manipulating life and being this clever, the way you're handling it all and you start taking it personally, in other words, is when you start tripping over and things start going wrong again. The idea is that you stand in the center and observe the play of the yin and the yang, rather than sit on the outside of the roundabout and get swung out in all directions and get dizzy from it. Or if you see it as a seesaw, you stand in the middle of the seesaw, straddling it, as you must have done many times as a child. It's not as exciting, is it? When you're on one end and somebody else is on the other end and you're flinging each other up and down and up and down. It's a lot more exciting, a little bit uncomfortable when you bash into the ground, and a little bit like your stomach's coming out of your mouth when you go up in the air. But, that's external fun. However, when you stand in the middle and you straddle the thing, you get that sense of the motion, and you kind of like it. It's nice having the motion going on in your hips, but you're not being caught at either end of the extreme. You're not investing in it being one or the other. So you're riding the up and the down and just enjoying that. You're thriving on that up and the down of existence as it moves through you. And the more you center yourself in the core of your being, which we'll do in a minute when we do the meditation, the less you need other people to make you feel happy. Now, this is good because other people, in case you haven't noticed, are constantly doing things. They don't sit still. They're not static. And if somebody was static and never moved, it would kind of imply they never spoke either, which kind of implied they didn't breathe either. And it would kind of imply they were dead. So you're not going to get a lot of happiness out of them. But even if they weren't dead and they could speak, if they just sat there the whole time not doing anything, you probably wouldn't necessarily feel much happiness when they said to you, wow, you're great. Because you kind of think, well, what do you do? You don't do anything. You don't know. You can't compare me to anyone or anything. And that's a weird example. I don't even know where it came from. What I'm saying is that when you're looking to other people to validate you, it doesn't really hit the spot. You can get, and that happens to me a lot, I'm privileged to have often hundreds of people every day saying, wow, thank you, the work you're doing is amazing, it's really helping me, bless you for being on the planet. And it's a gorgeous feeling. It's a beautiful thing to know that I'm reaching people. But that in itself isn't something I thrive on. I don't get off on that. I don't get like, yeah, man, I'm brilliant. I'm like, oh, wow, my life's brilliant because I'm doing that. No, any more so than if somebody criticizes me for what they think I'm doing wrong or not doing right or whatever. It's not pleasing them, or it seems to go against some weird prejudice they've got or whatever. That doesn't either. I don't gauge myself by that either. I get my... Or if you're walking down the street and you have a flirt with someone, some beautiful man or woman smiles at you, and it gives you that little rush for a moment. And it's like, yeah, man, look at me. Or, yeah, lady, look at me. It only lasts for a moment. It's not going to fulfill you for very long. It might make you feel good for a second or two, but it's not going to bring you that delight of being alive all the time. Your boss telling you you've done a great job, getting a raise, getting a bonus, making loads of money, pulling off the deal, becoming really known as the best in your field, whatever it is, you don't need it. You don't need that validation when you come into your core. And ironically, when you do come into your core and you don't need the validation from others, is when you tend to get a lot more of it. People just do more of it. But it doesn't matter, because you didn't need it anyway. It's a kind of pleasant game to play. So this delight I'm talking about, that we're going to now magic up for everybody here, and by extension for everyone in the world, because know this, real delight, real joy, real happiness cannot be in isolation. It has to be connected to the urge to share, to spread your joy, your inner delight, like a contagion to everybody. At least to have the intention to spread your joy to all comers, to all sentient beings, everyone on the planet and beyond. This joy is what exists at the very core of you. When the Tao, the one presence, the invisible force of existence, gives birth to a universe like it's giving birth to this one, which is not really in linear time. It's not a one-off thing. It's sort of doing it constantly. It's constantly giving birth to this. When it does that, it's the essence of joy that makes it do that. I mean, that's one way of describing it. I'm not asking you to believe me or saying this is absolute truth. But it's the essence of joyfulness that makes it generate. It's not the essence of misery and like, ugh, I really want to suffer, so I'm going to create a universe. It's like, yes, joy. That's the energy of the Tao that I perceive anyway. You might perceive it differently. It's a primordial joyfulness, a delight in the sheer miracle of existence. Now, we are going to contact that within us. Prepare yourself. Make yourself feel as comfortable in your seat as you possibly can. That means shuffle about and take full advantage of the surface beneath your bum. Get your hands under your sit bones and pull the flesh out sideways to get your sit bones to spread as broadly as possible so you feel solid where you're sitting. And I would definitely recommend you don't do this lying down because you do tend to become somnolent in that position, and you can't really serve as an antenna for the forces of heaven and earth in the lying down position quite as well. Get a sense that somebody is pulling the back of your head upwards towards the ceiling to make the back of your neck longer. And I'm just drinking something. Allow your shoulders to drop. There's no reason to keep your shoulders up near your ears, especially not here with 200 of us sitting around the world, communing in authenticity and kindness with each other. Gently raise your breastbone a little bit, as if you're reaching upwards to everything that is beautiful. You're rising up to all that is beautiful, all that is joyful in existence. Now notice how this gives you a sort of kingly or queenly bearing, this raising of the breastbone. Now relax your face. Let all the tension in your facial muscles dissolve. Just let the expression slide right off your face. It's a rare opportunity to do this. We don't realize how much tension we hold in our faces because we use our faces to face the world, to face life. But right now, you don't need your body other than to be here. So you can let your face drop all the sense of expression. There's no facing up to anything to be done now, just in this moment. And let the cheeks really relax, and let around the eyes relax, and let your jaw relax, and your chin relax. And you'll notice that as you do that, do it properly, fully, the back of your head relaxes as well. And amazingly, the entirety of your whole system, your whole body relaxes. So you're just concentrating on softening your face, letting go of all the expression in your facial muscles. And you notice that the softness that ensues just happens all over your body. So now your whole body is starting to feel softer. And as your body softens, your chest starts warming, as if you've taken something magical that warms you up. And when your chest starts warming, your solar plexus starts warming. And as your solar plexus starts warming, all that fear and that tension you usually carry around there dissolves, just for now, just for the moment, because you don't need to be protecting yourself from the pain of dealing with people who all have their own agendas and so on. Just for now, you're safe, and the solar plexus relaxes. And when your solar plexus relaxes, you'll notice, apart from the fact that the sensation of subtle happiness is already growing, the breathing becomes different. Rather than breathing in a shallow or interrupted way, noisy, jagged, rough way, you're starting to breathe in a very smooth and flowing way. And the breath feels soft and silken, joyful. And as the breath becomes softer, more silken, automatically your mind tone becomes softer, more silken, more naturally filled with delight. So there's a subtle sense of delight throughout the mind and throughout the body as you breathe slowly and freely. And you know, in the center of your brain you have your pineal gland. It looks like a pine cone, which is one of the big secrets of how to become enlightened. It's common to every system, east and west, hidden in the esoterica of every system. Well, right behind the pineal gland, which sits in the center of the brain, just above the upper brainstem, behind the eyes, there is a thing called the amygdala, or things called the amygdala, which sort of hang down either side of the midline. And when you're unhappy and stressed, they contract and go kind of funny shape. But when you're relaxed and feeling the joy of being, they hang down, relaxed. Well, if you can imagine them there, hanging like a pair of sacks behind the center of the brain, very relaxed and floppy, a bit like a spaniel's ears, that will make you happy in itself. It's like reversing the process. And as you're doing that, slide your mind back even further until it's actually right in the back of your head. Because normally your mind's in the front of your head, where you're analysing and evaluating and debating what's going on or what you perceive to be going on externally. But when you let your mind sit at the back of the head, and you're perfectly entitled to do that, you're entitled to put your mind wherever you feel you like putting it. There's no obligation to keep it in the front. As you let your mind slide back into the back of the head, which is where it actually wants to be, so it's not difficult to do, you just relax. The mind naturally slides to the back of the head. Suddenly you notice that not only does your consciousness feel much larger, it's also much quieter. In fact, that debate, that constant evaluation that's going on in the front of the brain seems to have actually stopped momentarily. That noise suddenly stops. And here you are in pure consciousness, leaning into the back of your brain, into the rear wall of the skull, like a wee Buddha, sitting there perfectly safe in your sacred cave. You know, the cave that we all talk of, going off to sit and meditate in for hundreds of years to become enlightened. This is it. You carry it around inside your skull. And here you are in it, safe and sound, perfectly serene, and removed from the world. So you have time to collect yourself and remember what and who you are. Yet, there's still not the full connection going on, because this is just you in your space. And here we sit, at least on this planet, with 7 billion plus other people. And we cannot be happy in isolation. Happiness must be when it's shared with everybody, whether they take up on it or not. And that requires opening the heart center in the middle of the chest. Simple as that. So as you sit here leaning back into the back of your skull, imagine down below on the cliff face of the mountainside where your heart is, there's a sort of James Bond setup where the rock wall kind of slides apart so that the rocket or whatever, the torpedo, could be fired out of the side of the mountain. And but this is to open, to reveal your heart, your beautiful heart, that part of you which is the pure essence of why the Tao manifested as you, the just gorgeous beauty of your soul, the unique gift that you have that no one else does, that precise flavor and fragrance that is you, and its kindness and its nobility and its courageousness and valor and caring, which is, of course, the foundation of love. Caring, care is the foundation of love. And just by focusing on it, you can already feel the fragrance of your essence radiating like the fragrance of a beautiful rose. And there's no limit to where it can reach. So you just freely let it go now rather than hold on to it as it's habitual. Allow the fragrance of your love to reach everybody, because everyone's suffering, everyone's in pain on the planet, and everybody can benefit from having your love to heal them. Just as you benefit from having the love of everyone else to heal you. And with your chest relaxed like this, with your heart open, you're receiving that love from wherever it's being sent right now on the planet. Now, this is all well and good and very beautiful, but who is it that's doing it? Because the person you usually think of as you, that collection of opinions and beliefs and fears and prejudices and dreams and thought patterns and behavioral patterns, that doesn't really exist. That's just something you constructed incredibly cleverly since you were born. And that illusory aspect of you lives in the front of your body and is part of the noise of you working out how to deal with life from moment to moment. And the front of the body, as well as being noisy, is a pretty weak place. It's quite vulnerable, quite soft in many places, quite vulnerable and exposed. Now, just as you're entitled to allow your mind to sit wherever it wants inside your brain, you're also entitled to shift your presence as a person wherever you want inside your body. And just because you're used to being in front of your body doesn't mean you have to stay there. In fact, you can let your presence relax, which is what it wants to do, and lean into your back instead. You can occupy your back. So get the sense of leaning into your own shoulder blades now, and into the front of your spine, into the rear pelvic bones, and into the sacral area. Like really sit back like you're leaning back in a chair. And the mind inside the skull, at the rear of the skull, is like you're leaning your head back onto the headrest. But it's a good headrest. It's one of those ones that really works. So you don't have to sort of lean your head back and get a neck ache like you do in cars and stuff. This is one of those headrests that is positioned like a cushion. It's perfect. And now you're in the back of your body. So it's not very dramatic. There's nothing particularly spectacular about it. But it is the most powerful move you can ever make. Inside or outside, this is the move, the master move. Because in the back of your body is your strength, your stability. Your spinal column is the strongest support strut you have in your whole system. The muscles running down the sides of your spine are the strongest muscles in your body. This is where your strength is. And it's solid. It's very hard to penetrate the back, other than the kidney area. Most of the back is pretty well protected. The back of the head all the way down, it's strong there. Sitting in the back of yourself, you're stable, you're strong, and you're in command of the front of yourself. Now, this is really what happens anyway when you relax. All we're doing is we're defining it. We're pointing out, we're accentuating what occurs anyway. This falling backwards inside the body. Becoming the witness bearer, which is not the right way of putting it, because you are the witness bearer, you don't become it. Is you stop being that noisy construct, the personality that you usually think of as you. Just for a moment, you let it go. And as you sit back inside, and you let yourself trust it here, you notice that you don't really need to have that noise going on in the front. You don't need to have that disturbance. You don't really need to run the interference on yourself to make yourself feel alive. In fact, it's quite obvious that that's all rather wasteful distraction. The outside world is still beautiful, it's still interesting, it's still fascinating. It's still wonderful that people appear to be doing better than you, and so on and so forth, because that's inspiring. You know, kind of that competition urge is going to make you more creative, perhaps, in your life. But it's not any real gauge of your worth or of your value of living, by any means. To the contrary, There is no need for a gauge now, because who you are at your core. Nothing needs measuring. You just are. And this presence that is observing now is who you've always been behind the disguise, and is actually the background presence of all existence, the invisible, ineffable presence that sits somehow at the subatomic level and gives rise to the world of matter, the world of illusions, if you like. The Tao, the God, the mysterious presence, this is you, this is it, this is you, in the back of you. And at first, like I say, it doesn't feel very spectacular. You'd expect it to be much bigger and huger. But when you consider that in looking for God, our scientists look at the smallest possible phenomenon, you know, the smallest subatomic particle. They don't look at the biggest thing, they look at the smallest thing. So the God, the Tao, is very small. It's infinitesimally small. And that's how it manages to be everywhere. And being small, it's quiet and it's unassuming. It doesn't need to be noisy because its manifestation does all that. You know, all the galaxies smashing into each other and black holes swallowing up whole universes and so on. That's all the noise on the outside. But on the inside, at the core of everything, it's almost totally silent. And that's what's happening in the back of you, this beautiful silence. And in this silence, there is delight. Delight is the way to describe this. This is delight. This is happiness. It's aware of the up and the down of life. It's aware of the pleasure turning to pain and the pain turning to pleasure. It's aware that at some point this body will die. It's aware that at some point the bodies of all the people you love will die. It's aware that not many years from now, really, relatively speaking, all of this, all of us will just be dust. It's aware of all of that. And it feels the poignancy of it. It's not cold. It feels the poignancy of it, and it cares. It cares for the suffering of the constructed self, of you and of everybody. But it knows that none of this is really real. So it just takes delight in observing the poignant perfection of the imperfection of everything. Now just for a moment, sit back right inside and gaze into infinity and picture as you do, sitting in consort with 200 or so other people in a large circle in the ether, as if we're sitting all the way around the planet. And we are the big presences, all of us, so we don't have any necessarily defined shapes or forms. We just are big presences, and they glow, maybe some kind of glow that is the only thing that you can visually tell us by. And we are these huge presences, these huge consciousnesses, divided into 200 just really for the sake of organization. Really, there's just the one of us. And we are so strong and still within, in this silent delight at bearing witness, knowing that nothing external can even come close to this for our fulfillment. And we can visualize in our midst the planet Earth, and somewhere on its surface you can see your local self down there. You can see it in another dimension, all the way down on the planet of the surface of the planet. There you are, sort of sitting there, meditating with a computer screen, somebody's voice coming in your ears. And there's all your stuff around where you live and the people that are around you. Somehow, by extension, you can see all the activities that you've been up to, your work, your play, your secret thoughts, your overt thoughts, your secret fantasies, your fantasies you've acted out or want to act out, your fears, your hopes, all of it, all of it, all of it. And you see yourself sitting there, and it's really an illusion, this self, this body that is morphing even as you look at it, and will one day not exist at all, that somehow thinks it's going to go on forever. this mind, this personality sitting inside the body that is sure that it's going to go on forever like this, that it is this collection of habits that it believes itself to be. And you look at that being, that construct, and all you can have is this most incredible compassion for it. And it's as if you're reaching down with your huge, massive presence hands through the dimensions and holding the local self's head from behind, like a healer, a vast angel healing the local self. And you're injecting through your hands into their heads the very essence of this pure delight, of this wisdom, of this perspective, of this knowing, so that never again will they ever be confused about who and what they actually are, that they will stop taking themselves so seriously, so personally from now on, that they will stop seeking validation or joy in anything or anyone external, and through doing so will actually enjoy everything and everyone external far more, and vice versa. And you're putting this blessing through your huge angelic hands into their head, and you can actually feel them vibrating with the injection of power from you. And you're aware that all of us are doing the same to our local selves. And because we're generous, the rebound energy of this, the sort of overflow energy, is spreading everywhere to everyone, to all the brothers and sisters of all the 200 people sitting there in their local shades. To everyone on the planet somehow is getting this injection of this very subtle, discreet, yet imperishable joy, this delight, this happiness. And you're still pumping through the head of your local self. You've got your hands on it, and you're really healing them. You're really giving them the blessing. Now, all at once, come into your physical body again, fully, and be feeling the hands of this massive angel on your head right now, pumping that happiness into you. Feel it now. Feel those hands on your head, pumping it in. Feel yourself receiving the blessing. Feel it now. Receive it now in your local form. This form which is merely an illusion, a construct that you've made up. Nonetheless, what fun, eh, to be this thing. And let this happiness come into you that the angel behind you is sending in through its hands, knowing that that angel, that presence, is actually who you really are. And it's a secret. Don't tell anybody. Don't let anyone know. You don't have to anyway. Keep it to yourself. But that's who you really are, is that angel. And this thing here on the earth, this is just a bit of fun, a bit of frou-frou. That's all it is. So no need to take it seriously. And in that mode, come back into the world, into the world of the 10,000 things, and let's do some Q&As, because I think we've done that magic. And I believe that from now on, your levels of true innate joy will grow and grow and grow. Over to you, Sue.
Hello, can you hear me?
Well, that's amazing. I can hear you. There you are. It wasn't all done just to myself, that. Nice one.
No, not just yourself. So we've just got a couple of pre-submitted questions at the moment, Stephen, so I'll start with those while everybody's thinking about their questions. This is from Elizabeth. I believe in struggle and challenge, so until now, happiness magic does not take. How can I trick myself out of this trap?
Well, why would you want to? If you believe in that, why would you want to? Let your local self continue believing that with that illusion, but come back behind it into your real self like you were just doing, and then it doesn't matter anymore. Let your illusory self be hooked on the suffering. It will always be anyway. That's part of the illusory self. It kind of needs the suffering. It needs it somehow makes it thrive. But come back behind it, constantly come back behind it, and drop the drama of being of that person, that construct that believes in suffering, but even the magic doesn't take. Back behind that is the real Elizabeth, the real big presence of Elizabeth, for whom happiness is all there is, really. That's what Elizabeth really is. And there is no magic to take, really. It just is. That's just how it is. The magic consists in identifying yourself correctly. It consists in no longer indulging in mistaken identity. So you just drop that behind it. And it's a practice. You come back and you'll get drawn forwards again. You come back, you get drawn forwards, and you yo-yo back and forth until you get used to trusting the back position. And then you just sort of stay there. It just happens on its own. And then everything's different. And there's no question about happiness anymore. You just are. Next question.
Just before we go to that, Lynn's saying, wonderful, she's glowing. Thank you, Stephen.
Oh, bless you. You're welcome, Lynn.
And Malkit says, thank you, Stephen. What a powerful and magical satsang meditation. You have certainly executed the magic of happiness in me.
Oh, wonderful. That's brilliant.
So this question is from Sabine in Germany. For years, my mum has been blaming me for her unhappiness and depression. When I am in my back, she attacks me even more. Any ideas?
Oh, Sabine, that's must be sad to hear that. When you're in your back, she attacks you even more because psychically, she's very plugged into you, right? So she knows that you're doing that. It's like when I used to spar with one of the guys who was teaching me in America, one of the martial arts teachers. When I used to go really into my back and then come out behind my back and become the huge presence, he knew I was doing it. He'd shout at me, he said, don't do that, it's really naughty. You know, because I get the advantage of it somehow. So people can tell, they know when you're doing it. And the key is letting the heart open and feeling the compassion to your mum, because for a mother to be feeling that her daughter is the cause of her unhappiness is a very suffering place to be. And she's in pain, as you obviously know. And by coming into the back and keeping your heart open and visualizing her as the pure being, the one, you know, when people die, and after they've died, a short while after, you can feel that their suffering's gone. You can feel that they've gone into their pure self and that they're all right now. And all their distortions, all the weird shit that they were dealing with as people stopped. And now they're free. And then they are the angelic being. You've got to see the angelic being inside your mum. Keep seeing that rather than focusing on the negative. It's hard, really, really hard. It's a discipline. And gradually, by and by, she will start mirroring that back at you. And she'll go into her back, and her heart will open. This would be the ideal. Anywhere towards that, it might come and go, but that is the way I would suggest to focus on that. And try and stay away from her more. Don't spend so much time with her, I'd say, is quite practical, important advice. But you don't have to, do you? So just don't spend as much time with her.
All right.
Okay, next.
We have no more questions, although Afka's saying a deep thank you for this unique event.
Oh, it is my utmost pleasure. It has been beautiful for me, so thank you too for being here, and I'm very happy. Next one is on Sunday. Is this the last one, Sue, the next one?
It is, yeah.
Come, because the finale of the series is always a strong one. See you, everybody, on Sunday. And then if you know anyone who wants to come, get them to book it fast so that they get in if they can. All right, fantastic. Bless you all. May the magic of happiness be done, and us all start to feel incredibly happy all the time from now on. I do already anyway, so I hope you're going to feel it as well. Bless you, and goodbye.
Their all pain, their suffering, be dispelled. Their all pain, their suffering, be dispelled.